It's better in the Bahamas. Romance all the day. It's better in the Bahamas. Come and dance the night away. All the highways for the lazy days. All the nights.
The islands of the Bahamas begin 55 miles off the Florida coast and are made up of 700 islands, 30 of which are inhabited, covering a vast area of 100,000 square miles. Visiting the islands of the Bahamas. You must file a U.S. international flight plan before departing the U.S., and your first point of arrival in the Bahamas must be at an airport of entry. Each person aboard the aircraft must have a passport. Keep your aircraft registration available, and check that your aircraft insurance policy extends to the Bahamas. Most do. All airplanes must have a Mode C transponder, 12-inch registration numbers on the plane, and one U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket for each person. Life rafts are suggested, but not required. Vests and optional life raft equipment can be inexpensively rented at most FBOs in South Florida. At typical cruise altitudes, radio reception is fine, speaking with a choice of Miami or Nassau radio.
Both Bahamas Approach and Nassau Center have remotes throughout the islands. Customs is a no-brainer. You land, you fill out a C7A form. Once you get stamped, then you're free to island hop until you leave the country.
Offshore weather is usually good VFR. Because of the Gulf Stream's moderating influence, the weather generally remains in the 70s and 80s year-round. For trouble-free navigation, GPS is your best bet, with VORs and ILS approaches in Freeport and Nassau.
It can get a little breezy out here in the islands. From water to land, you have to consider wind shear.
Upon arriving, you must land at an airport of entry the first time you enter the islands. Normal hours for customs are 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Clearing customs is no problem. All you do is fill out the Bahamian immigration card, one per person, and 4 copies of the C7A form. With this single permit, you can island hop with ease.
Hello, I'm John Obradovich, and my wife and I published the Bahamas and Caribbean Pilot's Guide. Well, first, let's just say that when you fly to the Bahamas, the hardest flying you'll do is when you go from wherever you live to Florida. That's a lot more difficult in terms of restricted airspace and terrain and weather. When you get to the Bahamas, there is no terrain. The highest point is 200 feet above sea level, and the weather is almost always ideal. It's 44 miles from the shoreline to the first island, which is Bimini, and from Bimini on, there's virtually an island in sight all the time. There's large land masses as well as there's small islands, but you always seem to have land in sight and an island in sight.
The Bahamian government has developed a private pilot's Bill of Rights. No overtime customs and immigration fees for private aircraft visiting for recreational purposes, and no tie-down fees at any government-owned airport. Avgas is currently available at 9 airports in the islands. You are never more than 20 minutes flying time away from fuel. Avgas prices are similar to Florida's FBOs. When departing, surrender your copy of the immigration card and pay departure tax of $15 per person. You must file an international flight plan with 800 WX Brief or Nassau Radio in the air. Before takeoff, you are required to contact U.S. Customs at your airport of entry at least 1 hour before arrival, notifying them of your exact arrival time. A phone call is the only way to comply. Once in the air, you must contact Miami Radio 15 minutes before penetrating the ADIZ, just past Bimini.
Hi, I'm David Grantham. I'm a pilot with the United States Customs and Border Protection. And in just a moment, I'm going to be telling you about some procedures that'll make your arrival back in the U.S. go smoothly. As pilots, we all enjoy flying to new places, and certainly one of the most beautiful and exciting destinations are the islands of the Bahamas. But often, when we think about flying foreign, we might get a little apprehensive about clearing customs. Simply remember this: prior to leaving the U.S., have your paperwork in order and this will expedite your clearing procedure when you arrive in the islands of the Bahamas. And don't forget, at least 1 hour prior to leaving the islands, you need to call your U.S. airport of arrival and notify the customs official of your ETA. If you don't have good cell phone coverage in the islands, many of those islands actually have a free phone service that allow you to call back to the U.S. and make this notification. Remember, always fly safe and enjoy your trip to the Bahamas.
The Electronic Advanced Passenger Information System, or EAPIS, allows you to enter flight data online. Starting on May 18, 2009, private aircraft arriving and departing the United States require pilots of these aircraft to transmit notices of Bahamas arrival and/or departure information to U.S. Customs electronically, with a minimum of 60 minutes prior to departure through the EAPIS system. Additional information on this program can be found at the Homeland Security website below.
Last year at AirVenture, the government of the Bahamas announced that light sport pilots could fly in Bahamian airspace. In December, we had the first ever LSA fly-in, and 17 light sport aircraft flew over. 15 of these aircraft the people had never been to the Bahamas in any way, shape, or form. This has opened up a great opportunity for light sport pilots.
The Bahamas.com website has a very informative section under Activities Flying. There you'll find important phone numbers, tips, and questions answered. Another popular way to experience the islands, the Bahamas Tourist Office has incorporated fly-ins. The fly-ins provide for discounted hotel and sports activity rates.
Flying over water, I don't feel is any more dangerous or troublesome than flying over the land.
You got a plane, you got a playground over here.
It's very easy.
Feel free to call the Bahamas Tourist Office at 800-327-7678 anytime. So fly on over. And as they say, it's better in the Bahamas.